Welcome to your source of comic book news and culture. This is Variant Edition. Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick.
Every week, Variant Edition brings you the best that comics has to offer. It's a half hour full of news, reviews, and, well, basically anything we think is comic related.
Yeah, pretty much. And again, we have a packed show for you this week.
We're still prepping for our big wall-to-wall Baltimore Comic-con special. That should be out next week. But don't worry, we've got some of that Baltimore flavor for you this week, too.
That's right. In addition to our regularly scheduled reviews, I got a chance to talk to Unmeant artist Mike Hawthorne at the con.
Yeah, it's a good show. So let's get on with it already.
Alright guys, first review of the week right here, Wonder Woman Annual number 1. Now this is finally the last issue to the 5-part epic of Who is Wonder Woman that was kicked off by the creative team of Alan Heinberg and Terry Dodson almost a year and a half ago, which was led straight to delays because of conflicting schedules. You know, we also Alan's track record with Young Avengers at Marvel. We see fingers pointed, but we'll leave that for another episode of Variant Edition. We'll discuss that later. Now, in this issue, we see this obviously predates the recently finished Amazon's attack. So we see where Diana's just kind of trying to find out who she is as a person, because she's like, I'm made out of clay. I'm not really a real person. I was brought to life by magic, and I murdered somebody. So she's trying to find out who she is. And while all this is going on, Circe managed to get all her rogues gallery villains together to come and get her and just pretty much just jump her and beat her up, because they found that this like a weak point in her life, that she's doubting herself, and let's take advantage of this and just completely take her out. So you've got the rogues gallery in there, and there's a very heavy theme of triumph over tribulation in this book. She's able to take down all her villains with, of course, the help of the JSA and JLA. And what I didn't like about this issue that just kind of really made me angry and made this issue worthless was that after all this happens, Circe pulls like a complete 360. And at the end of the issue, Circe grants Diana the ability to be human, where I call it the Shazam syndrome, where when Diana's in her, Diana Prince form, human, working as a spy, she can get hurt. She will get cut, she will get shot, it'll hurt, she'll break a leg, she'll break a nail, it's going to suck. But when she does a little spin around, the sparkles go off, and she turns into Wonder Woman, she becomes invulnerable again. So that was probably the only cool thing about this book. There's also a backup story by Gary Frank and Alan Heinberg in there that was okay, but it kind of leads into where we're already at with Wonder Woman. So overall, this book was definitely not worth the wait. I'm really let down by Alan Heinberg again, even though he did really great with Young Avengers. I don't know what it is with this guy. He's just really too busy for, with Hollywood. Should just kind of stay away until his schedule really opens up and he can really commit himself to the series characters, of comics, But other than that, okay issue, not worth the wait, great art, and I'm just hoping Wonder Woman really picks up after this issue.
X-Men First Class number 4. I'm loving this comic more and more. The more I'm reading the X-Men First Classes, these are just like great little stories about the original core team, Cyclops, Angel, Beast. Just really good stories here. This is kind of an offbeat. There's no real supervillain fights going on at all. What we're looking at is basically everybody's going away on break. Jean's going back with her parents for whatever. Scott's going to hang out with his family or his brother or something, and Iceman just kind of like hanging back. He's kind of like, I don't really have any family to go home to. There's a bunch of rednecks back where I am, and they hate mutants, so I'm just going to stay here. Thanks for inviting me, though. I'm going to be a loser and stay at the academy. And, Institute, sorry. And Beast is also staying at the Institute, and Professor X is like, hey, Beast, why don't you lay off the studying, and you and Bobby, you guys go out and have a great time on the road. So they do. They steal Angel's car, borrow Angel's car, and they stop at like roadside attractions. They're arguing about how Cyclops has stupid sunglasses and how no, Gray is definitely into Cyclops, and just a lot of good times. And at the end, they manage to save the day in the Florida Keys from a hurricane using an ice shield tunnel thing. A great comic, no zero supervillains, like I said, but you've got great character development between Beast and Iceman. And I think that's what sometimes comics need, just a little reboost in there to show you, like, this is why these characters care about each other so much.
All right, everybody, issue 2 of The Unmen. Really good comic. If you've seen my review past couple episodes, great, new, fresh, good stuff. And issue number 2, the plot thickens. Issue number 1, you're kind of introduced to the whole setup of these freaks and their Disney World for freaks and all that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff going down. One of the freaks turns up dead, yada, yada, yada. And now you're finding out that more of it might be on the inside instead of the threats coming from the outside. But as we all know, with these big organizations and companies, the problems always come from the inside. And with freaks, it's no different. Whether it be, someone that you work with or someone that's attached to you. they might be screwing you over. And that's what Unmen goes into. You even find out that people are starting to do things that they wouldn't normally do due to other things added to drinks and whatnot, you know. Whatever you want to call it, freak roofies, whatever, something like that. But a lot goes down, and our main, villain guy is kind of betrayed by the woman that he refers to as his Ren, the one-armed angel-looking chick in the story, and is really getting thick in this, because our investigator who's there is looking more and more into the murder case, which the rest of the people in this area are saying, you know, oh, it was this, and this is how it was, but he's finding out more clues and more evidence that points otherwise. So, if you want to look into a story that's really good, that's getting into a really developed story, and a very odd term of, who done it, where one guy can point, 20 fingers at you, it's ridiculous. So, yeah, check it out if you want freaks killing freaks and mayhem running amok.
Alright guys, next review for this week, Wolverine Annual number 1, Deathsong, I believe it's called. This is a really interesting, this is the second Wolverine Annual, which is kind of weird, because 2 annuals for one character, but again, he's got 2 separate books, so you can kind of get away with that. But other than that, to the story. This story revolves around a criminal lowlife, and we follow him through his life from when he was a boy, stealing, and doing all kinds of bad things that we all do when we're kids, up to a teenager, robbing stores, and up to a man where, it's just up to, major things like, bank heists and this and that, and, robbing jewelries, purse snatching. So, the story revolves around this character. He had a really bad childhood, bad background, his mom was a crackpot, dad used to beat him, so you kind of feel a little sympathetic, but then it's the whole spiel you've heard all over and over again, why don't you try and make yourself a better person, but you just fall into that shadow of being bad. He does what everyone else does when they grow up, and they're still a bad person, and they live in the streets and stuff. You join a crime syndicate. They set up this bank robbery, and they knock over this old lady who just happens to be talking to Logan, who's just walking in the street, probably enjoying one of the rarest days of his life where he can actually just just hang around and be nice and not kill anybody for once. So they knock over this old lady. She falls on her head, cracks it wide open, she dies. And right before that, she was talking to Logan, and she gave him a flower that probably made Logan's day really good, but now he just got ruined because she just got killed right in front of him. So of course the man is pissed. Wolverine tracks him back to the lair because he's got the scent going on. So he tracks him back to the lair, and this book takes a complete turn for the worse for those guys. This Wolverine going on beyond berserk. He is annihilating these guys and completely butchering them in this book. And the art, I kind of liked it, fit because it was very very loose and very sloppy because he's just on he's going berserk. He's going on a rampage. It's very reminiscent of Frank Miller's Dark Knight 2. And the recently Spider-Man Reign, where Carrie Andrews was using that loose penciling and kind of quirky colors, so it's really cool. The art fit the book really well. This book was really intense. This is one of the best annuals I've read in I think years. Since they started doing the annuals again, and it was really great. The guy who wrote this book, I hope he comes back for a run on Wolverine or a run on somebody. Great book, great art. Highly recommend this book, and I can't wait to see where the current story arc is going to pick up after this.
Alright, another goddamn issue of goddamn Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder, All-Stars, yada yada yada. Big mouthful of a title, but it's issue goddamn number 7. I say goddamn because goddamn, Frank Miller loves to say goddamn. And it's one page, they say that word 10 times. Sorry to go off on a rant in the beginning of this review, but it's really starting to irk me. I came into the shop, saw it, and Ray's like, oh, that issue was such crap. It's all Frank Millerisms all over the place, just being so lame. I'm like, I'll read it and I'll get, see what happens. 3rd page, I'm like, what the hell is he doing? And I think Ray got it pretty good. Frank Miller is just cracking himself up while he's writing this. He's like, yeah, I'm going to say goddamn one more time. Now I'm going to go make the Spirit and dress like the Spirit. Because I'm Frank Miller. But anyway, he doesn't sound like that, but he likes to say goddamn a lot. Issue 7 of Batman and Robin All-Stars, yada yada yada, is finally going back to the story that they left in issue 3. Robin! What happened to Robin the past couple issues? I don't know, he was chilling out in her cave. I'm pretty sure a lot could have been going on, but we don't know. Apparently he's killing rats with an axe. Whatever. Doesn't eat them, just kills them because they're hissing at him. Whatever. So, yeah. Robin's there while Batman's out on a dock beating up guys for stealing bleach. Black Canary shows up, and she got the hots for Batman. And what woman doesn't have the hots for Batman. I'm not a woman, and I got the hots for Batman. It's only natural. He's the goddamn Batman. So they got their little thing. They make out on the dock. I don't know if they have sex. I mean, if they did, it was really fast, and I'm pretty sure Batman ain't too proud about that. But goes on to more, and he drives her home or to some place. You don't really see him drop her off, but they're chilling in his car. And once again, it's like a rehash of issue 2. She's sitting in the car. Hey, Batman, maybe you should talk a bit more. Shut up. Hey, Batman, maybe you should do this. Shut up. It's kind of like issue 2, except not as good. Goes on. Batman brings Robin, the guy that killed his parents, and he gives him that whole choice. Detect or revenge. You know how it goes. You probably all read it. I'm not going to give it away. This kind of goes on. The story, I'm a big Frank Miller fan. I'm a big Batman fan. I'm a big Frank Miller Batman fan. But this story is getting old. Like 1950s old. Oh wait, or maybe that's the point. God damn it, I don't know. All I know is issue number 8 of the goddamn Batman will probably come out next goddamn month or in 2 goddamn months. Something like that. Read it. I'm thinking about going to All-Star Superman. I've heard good things about that as opposed to this. But whatever. Frank Miller's making the spirit and he dresses like him. So keep it up, Frank, and everybody out there reading this. I don't know. God damn it.
Okay, a new comic from Dark Horse here. We got the Umbrella Academy number 1 of 6. And this was, I first got this at Free Comic Book Day as a little like preview sample. And I was like, wow, that comic's going to be amazing. And then I go in to find out that the guy from Chemical Romance is writing it. And I got to tell you, I didn't know that until after I finished the comic. And I read the back, and I'm glad I didn't know that because I probably would have had some sort of, predisposition to be like, oh, that comic's going to suck. But no, it's a really good comic. And even though he's in Chemical Romance, I won't hold it against him. What we've got here is a group of 43 children are born all at the same time around the world. At the same time, this guy named Tom Gurney has knocked out a space squid from Rigel X9 at 9:38 p.m. And 43 children born instantly. Women who were not pregnant beforehand just spit out babies. Okay, that's a great... What a way to start a comic right there. That's your first 2 pages. Then you've got this guy named Sir Reginald Hargreaves, a.k.a. the Monocle. A well-renowned scientist, wealthy entrepreneur, inventor of the televator, the levitator, the mobile umbrella communicator, and clever crisp cereal. Olympic gold medalist and recipient for the Nobel Prize for his work in cerebral advancement of chimpanzees. And he also happens to be a space alien. That being said, this comic's amazing. What you got is he goes around and adopts these kids, and he finds 7 of them. He's like, well, this will have to do. And people are like, well, why? Why are you going to adopt these kids that came out of nowhere? Most were just, abandoned and left for dead, and some were put up for adoption. You happen to find those. Well, why else would I do this? To save the world, of course. Alright, I'm intrigued. I'm going to read this comic, all 6 issues. I have no problem with it. You got a space boy guy who's really strong, and he's got the ape body right now, and you got a girl who, makes rumors and says, like, oh, I heard a rumor about such and such, and there's an Eiffel Tower fight scene. Yes, Eiffel Tower fight scene. Not fight scene at the Eiffel Tower, but Eiffel Tower fight scene. Pick it up. The book's amazing.
So while we were at the Baltimore Comic-con, I got a chance to talk with artist Mike Hawthorne. Mike's an awesome artist who is currently penciling Vertigo's Unmen. Check it out. Hey everybody, it's Nick. I'm here at the Baltimore Comic-con. I'm here with artist Mike Hawthorne, who just had a new comic come out called The Unmen. You'll see that review in a current episode sometime. So, Mike, any words of input from working on such like a original and like rich story as The Unmen? Because I mean, I absolutely love the comic.
It's been pretty fantastic. I just wrapped up the 5th issue, which is the end of this first story arc, and honest to God, I really did not see this ending coming. Even though I'm working on the book, I usually will get a script. Sort of basically one script at a time, so I don't really know how the next issue is going to go.
Right.
And honest to God, John surprised me just about every time. And issue 5 is pretty insane. So leading up to that, it's pretty awesome.
So like each issue just gets freakier and freakier?
Yeah, it really does. And I really can't say too much without giving anything away.
Oh, that's fine.
But wow, I don't even know what to say at this point, because one of the main characters, Cranius, the little brain guy.
Yeah, the like main bad guy of the story.
Has a huge plan to take the Unmen to TV, and there's a whole kind of movement within this little community of people that followed Kane, who some might know from Vertigo's follow-up series to The Unman called American Freak.
Okay.
And Kane ends up playing a pretty big part in the future issues, and it gets nuts. John really knows how to end a story big, so it's pretty cool.
That's good stuff. And like, I was reading the comic, and I mean, the story is just like so rich and so new, and just like it's really out there. And I really think your art accents that kind of story.
Well, thank you.
Your character designs, the way that you do people, the way that you do like the different kind of freaks in that community, it's just like, I don't know, it's nothing that like I've seen before. It's like, cool. Okay, there's a guy with extra appendages, but you add that little like Mike Hawthorne twist to it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Cranius has been making New Unmen basically.
Yeah.
And so all those really whacked out characters are all, his making it, and really there's sort of no limit set on me in terms of what I can make up. So everybody seems to be fond of the prostitute with the 3 breasts.
Oh, who isn't?
Yeah. We're actually talking about the next story arc where John's going to go even more nuts with some of the stuff, and I'm excited, man. I think it's going to be awesome. This is my cup of tea. I mean, drawing monsters and crazy characters. I mean, even if you have something that's a little pedestrian, like a talking head shot.
Yeah.
When one of the talking heads is a brain on a hand, it's still kind of cool to draw. So
you've done other projects. You had Hysteria one-man gang.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about maybe doing anything more with those characters, with that story?
I am. I do have plans. Right now, Hysteria got hit with some pretty bad... I actually got into a car accident where I hurt my hand. And the way I balance my schedule is sort of... I have to flip-flop between paying gigs and my creator-owned stuff.
Right.
And so if something goes wrong, unfortunately, the creator-owned stuff ends up suffering.
Yeah.
So One Man Gang is just fell off the radar for a little bit. I'm actually going to be putting stuff on my website, which I'll be launching soon, called thinktankcomics.com.
Okay.
And all the old Hysteria stuff. Because, I mean, I started with Hysteria in '99, so it's coming up on 10 years. And all that stuff is going to end up on the website as a webcomic, including One Man Gang. So that's sort of what I'm working on now, is finishing that up and getting all that stuff as a daily strip.
All right, well, once again, great work. Really glad to see you working on
Thank you, guys.
Such an awesome comic like The Unmen.
I'm happy, man. I'm real happy. So
I mean, not only are you doing a comic like on a steady basis, but it's something that you actually look forward to doing. You
I
like
really
doing
do,
monsters and creatures and freaks.
I really
and stuff
do.
like
And
that.
I read the rough script for number 6. And again, John is sort of going into another direction that I didn't see coming. He's going to talk a little bit more about Killcrops, who's the main character, one of the main characters, more about his background. And he actually has a twin brother.
Nice.
And he gets into some of the history of sort of how he ended up joining the FBI and eventually making his way to Aberrance, which is where The Unman takes place. So.
Oh, well, sounds good. Definitely looking forward to the rest of that. And it was great seeing you again,
Thanks
Mike.
for stopping by, guys. All right, man.
All right, guys. Last review of the week right here. Omega the Unknown #1. Now, I said before in the comics coming out this week that this took place in the 1970s and only ran for 10 issues. Now, Marvel's redoing it again with maybe a little bit of a different take. And again, it's solicited for 10 issues, but what they do, beyond that is up to them. But I think it sounds really cool because I read the first issue and I liked it a lot. It's very sophisticated, very, rough art style, very flat coloring, real old school reminiscent. And I like the story so far. Basically, it's the essential story of the kid who dreams of being a superhero. So you got him dreaming about being a superhero and, being a real, like this, all actuality, he's a boy who's very reclusive. He's been homeschooled, I believe, half his whole life is what they're giving off. And he's just very antisocial. So he's very an opposite from the superheroes. You can't have the two same people be one. So that's really cool. So the story kicks off with that. Next day, his parents are taking him to school. They enlist him into a public school. They want him to have that whole teenager, soap opera. This is your teenage years. You got to live through it. You got to build a social life, and everything after that should be a piece of cake. They encounter this this tank truck, flips over. They get into a horrible car accident. The kid comes to, and to very much my surprise, and I think everybody else is going to read the book, his parents are completely dismantled, and I mean dismantled in a very mechanical way. He passes out. He goes into a coma. They take him to a hospital. He's just basically a John Doe. Since his parents weren't real, he has no real background. So the doctors are astounded. There's this nurse who has this weird infatuation with him. She feels some kind of kinetic bond. So she's there for him all the time. He's still dreaming of being a superhero in his coma, you know. He's going through these adventures. He sees that people are coming after him in his hospital bed, and it actually comes to life. If not, he's, you know, like daydreaming it while he wakes up. The bad guys come in, he uses his powers, whatever, but the superhero he dreams of being is right there standing next to him. So I don't know if it's metaphoric, where he knows it's not real, or if it actually is real, and he kind of has the whole Captain Marvel Shazam deal kind of going on, where they switch places and one takes the one guy's place. So it's really cool. You know, I'm looking forward to where this book goes. The premise is very interesting. He's a very articulate, sophisticated young man with a very high level of vocabulary. The doctors are like really astounded by this kid. He's like a boy genius, a Doogie Howser with superpowers that he must. So I'm really excited for this book. It's really interesting, a very different take on how comics look these days to what they used to look like. And I'm really excited, and I can't wait to see what Marvel does with this.
All right, Terror Incorporated issue number 2. This is like a brand new thing for pretty much everybody, not just me. But if you're just watching the episodes now and you haven't seen the one where I reviewed issue number 1, definitely check that out. Because if you're into the whole creepy comics thing, this takes the normal mundane zombie, puts a curse on him. He's not really a zombie, more of like an immortal corpse that keeps decaying but the soul's still alive. Very tortured character, very good. And this guy is kind of, you know, he's that old barbarian from way back in the Dark Ages when he, like, ransacked Rome and all that stuff, rape and pillage, all good time had by all, except for those raped and pillaged. But anyway, it's, he's now in, you know, modern days, and he's, like, this hitman. And in issue 1, he had this one assignment that really pissed off the feds. So that's where issue 2 goes into. It's more of the feds' retaliation against Mr. Terror. And it's really, really cool because in the issue 1, if you've read it, he kind of gets blown away at the end. And they do this really great scene where they have, like, the cleanup of him in issue 2, where they cut up his body, well, you know, the different parts that formed his body at the time, chopped it up, poured it in acid, poured it down the drain, and yet he still comes back to live another day, if you can consider that living. Really, really good. Once again, another story that has, like, a really thick plot that's going to spill out all over like a bucket of guts. I'm looking forward to it. The only thing I got to say about issue 2, the cover shows him with a bear arm. No, he didn't uphold his Fourth Amendment in this issue, but that cover really makes a statement with the fact that this guy is going to be mixing and matching body parts throughout this series.
Every now and then I come across a comic that reminds me why comic book readers are so made fun of. Howard the Duck, number 1 of 4, definitely an example of this. For those of you who are familiar with Howard the Duck, he is from another galaxy where everything is duck-based and not human-based, and ducks rule the world. Yeah, it's a great idea for comic book to start off, but I know he's got like a little bit of cult following. I don't care. I hate Howard the Duck, and picking up this comic just reminded me about how much I hate Howard the Duck. He has a self-loathing streak going on. He hates humans, except for this one human who I guess he's kind of sleeping with now. They don't really go into that yet. And of course, they took MODOK and they made him into MODOT. Yeah, MODOT. Pick up the comic if you want to find out more of that. The only thing that really saved this comic for me is right in the middle. There's an advertisement for Spider-Man Friends vs. Foes, new video game coming out shortly for the Xbox 360 and the Wii. And if that's the highlight of the comic, is me looking at an advertisement going like, wow, I'm going to pick up that game, probably not a good comic. And even a zombie cover wouldn't make me want to buy this.
Alright, it's going to be about another month before apparently Kirkman starts killing off all of those wonderful characters that we've grown to love over the past couple years in Walking Dead. So in the meantime, you get to sit back and enjoy a really great, like, camp fest of a book, The Astounding Wolfman. If you haven't picked it up, which you should have because the first issue was free, definitely check this out. Superhero, werewolf, his mentor is a vampire who's really up to no good. Great, great stuff. Alright, so he's kind of getting used to dealing with other superheroes, because in the last issue they were, like, fighting a monster and he kind of helped them out. And they understood that. They were like, wow, you really saved our ass at this point. But in this one, it picks up from where he kind of went rampant, where the wolf got the better of him and he was more beast than man. Which the vampire didn't really tell him, and he's like, oops, my mistake. I'm sorry, you just killed somebody. But whatever, life goes on. So, yeah, it's kind of more into that. So Wolfman now has his fully operational lair, and a pretty spiffy car that shoots him out of the back like a cannon. So if he needs to lunge into action, he can literally go right into it. And the story goes, you find out that there's more Wolfman people around. And it's really kind of like, where'd that come from? What's with the other Wolfmen? And what exactly is the vampire up to? He knows all this stuff about werewolves, but he's a vampire. He made this mistake and doesn't really seem to bother anything with it. He just kind of shirks it off. In my opinion, the vampire in this comic is, in my opinion, David Xanatos. If you're familiar with the Gargoyle series, he's like that rich, suave, I know everything about everything kind of guy, and I'm going to be your friend because I know everything about everything. But he doesn't care about him, he cares about himself. And I think that whether or not it's like in issue 5, 10, or even like 30, that guy's up to no good, and we're going to find out. And, oh yeah, Wolfman apparently has some financial troubles. So, Astounding Wolfman, Astounding Tax Evasion, great issue, keep reading.
Alright guys, here's your bullet points for this week, kicking off with JLA 13. The Injustice League's plot thickens as the JLA team members are being picked off one by one. Now, is there a bigger picture going on here? You guys can keep reading to find out. Next book, Teen Titans issue 51. The Titans of tomorrow have come back to our present time to stop our present Titans from altering their future already more than it has, with Bart's death and Superboy's death. Now, one of the Titans is willing to sacrifice their life to keep that from happening. Will it happen? I don't know, you gotta keep reading. Avengers the Initiative, issue 6. Gauntlet is beaten within inches of his life, and you won't believe who actually gets away with the crime. Also, the questions to MVP's questionable death are rising. Who's gonna answer them? Are they gonna get answered? Don't know, gotta keep reading. Uncanny X-Men 491. Storm is caught in a horrible explosion, buried under rubble. Magneto still loose, doing God knows what, and the Morlocks are getting inches closer to fulfilling this prophecy. Now, does this tie into other X-Men books? Just gonna have to keep reading to find out. Miss Marvel, issue 20. Carol has had 2 psychos join her rank. She's got to make them fall in line. She's tangoing with Stature and fighting against the Puppet Master. Can life get any worse? And that's your bullet point for this week, guys. See you next time.
Alright, that's it for Variant Edition.
Yeah, I talked to Mike Hawthorne for a little longer than what we can fit into this episode, so check out variantedition.com for the uncut version of the interview. It's something that we plan on doing for all the interviews that we conducted at the con and at future cons.
Speaking of which, next week will be our really big wrap-up episode. We'll cram as much of the weekend as we can into a half hour, coverage from the floor, from the Harveys, perhaps a few interviews that we did, and our final impressions on the show itself.
Yeah, Baltimore was a huge con, and we've got tons of footage, so it should be a really good show.
Oh, and for those of you asking about it, we'll have the return of Variant Edition, the discussion, very soon.
Ah, yes.
We've got a few interesting topics planned. Check out our forums for some inside information about that shoot.
Yeah, alright, well that's it until next time, but remember, there are quite a few ways to watch us. You have iTunes, VO, YouTube, and Google Video. And don't forget our new high-res feed from Blip TV, or go straight to the source, variantedition.com, and watch us from our page.
Which is the #1 reason you can get that. And while at our page, you may keep your eyes open, because there are special additions to variantedition.com.
Yes.
And those are starting this week.
Yeah, and also at our page, you might want to check out that little sponsor us link. It's pretty cool. I hear all the kids are doing it these days. So if you want to be popular and cool, maybe, get a t-shirt or something, check that out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it for Variant Edition. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
I'm just going to point at your shirt. Send you a Zelda shirt.
Send you a Zelda shirt.
What? What?